Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Daggett, and in today's video we're going to be covering the traditional Hannya mask. We're doing a Japanese style Hannya mask design in sort of a traditional fashion. I've had a few requests for this. The last Hannya mask video I did was pretty popular, but it was a neo-traditional slash like new school sort of design that was a little bit goofy and a little bit funny looking. So I thought today we'd do a traditional style Japanese mask. Hopefully you guys like the way it comes out. Let's get straight into it, to the overhead. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the table. Today we're going to be covering a much requested topic. This is the Japanese Hannya mask. We're going to be doing it in a traditional style. My last Hannya mask video was more of a neo-traditional or even a new school design. It's a little bit goofy and a little bit silly. Today we're getting a little bit more serious and we'll be drawing a traditional style Hannya mask to the best of my ability to explain to you guys the little tricks and details that make this look traditional. So we're starting off with Fabriano hot press watercolor paper and a mechanical pencil. I have been asked now several times what paper I'm using. For my professional and portfolio work, I use cold press watercolor paper in the Fabriano brand. And for my YouTube videos, I'm using Fabriano hot press watercolor paper. And this particular one is 200 GSM and it's a 90-pound paper, so it is fairly thick. In terms of the pencil I'm using, it is a Pentel Techniclick G with a 0.5 size lead. You can use any mechanical pencil or any lead pencil that you'd like to follow along with today's video. Okay, so to start this guy off, it's pretty simple. We're going to be drawing in a circle. Give us the top portion of the head. We'll draw in a rough center line, just coming from here down, following the curve of the circle, and a little semicircle like this that just cuts off the side of the head on both sides. Okay, this gives us a rough idea of the shape of the top of the head, and sort of at the midpoint of that circle, just coming across with a line and another line just below that one to give us a space for our eyes. To put in the shape for our eyes, we're going to do these long oval shapes like this. One of them is about that far from the center line. The other one will nearly touch the center line, just like that. To draw in the rough shape of the bottom half of the head, we're going to start by using the ear for reference. So coming across from the eye, we're going to draw just above this top line. We're going to come out and back down. Okay, this just gives us a rough shape for our ear that we can follow later on. And from here, we're just coming around like this. Give us a rough shape of our jaw, coming directly down from this eye and then a little bit forward. Put in a circle for your nose. That'll be how big the tip of the nose is. So just depending on how big you want that, the very tip of the nose to be, will be how big you do that circle. And from here, we're going to probably come a little bit down and to the left and just draw another oval in. This is a really rough indicator of where the bottom jaw will go, and this will probably change as the drawing goes on. It actually should be on more of this angle. Okay, so starting off with the eyes, we're going to draw in the big eyebrows. So coming up from above this eye, we'll do a little loop that comes down and forward and cuts directly across the eye and has an upward sweep at the end here. So it loops down and has an upward sweep. At the back of the eye, we're just going to curve it back down into the back of this eye here. So there's a little wave here. You can do it straight down as well. From underneath this loop, we'll put in a small curved line, just like that, that indicates a little fold in the flesh of this demon. From here you can actually strengthen the shape of your eye, so just following along that curved ellipse that we drew before to give us our eyeball shape. And behind the eye, I like to double up on that line and just taper it down to add a little bit of a lip to the eye at the back there. Following this little peak that we drew, that joint back up, follow it through and up and out the other side like that. And then just underneath it, you draw another line that follows through into the front, just like that. From here, we start with placement of the nose. So to do this, just find your point between the two eyes here. Sharply bring a line up, and it's going to curve back into the head like that, and just flick off at the end. And from there, we're going to come sharply down and around the nose. So it curves out a little bit, but it's pretty much straight down and around the tip of our nose there. And just bring that back. To draw in the nostril shapes, just think like little triangles, like this. But they're going to be curved and just a little dip in the lines. Just like that sort of shape. And then you can draw in your actual nostril hole at the bottom like that. And again, you can play around with these, make them a little bit more rounded in areas. And all of this is subject to your style. Of course, we're sticking to some traditional parameters for this one, but you can play around with it still and make it your own. We're going to add another little curved line here just to add another lip or another fold behind the nose there, so it's a bit scrunched up. And the other nostril will be exactly the same, coming off the other side, but you will see a little bit less of it because it's, you know, hiding behind the tip of the nose there. To draw in the other eye, we're going to create another loop. It comes down behind this part of the nose and then swoops across the eye just like we did on this side. And we can add in that little fold of flesh as well. And follow our eye shape all the way around. Now for this side, we're just going to double up on that line, so coming out from under the eye and following it all the way around. And that will give us a basic shape for the left eye as well. To join this side of the face down to the nose, we're going to add the cheek. So coming in from behind our eye here, we're just going to come out with a curved line like that. It's going to dip in a little bit and then come down and join into the nose. You'll notice I use these shapes a lot in my drawings, so get familiar and comfortable with them. It's kind of like if you took a W and just stretched it right the way out. So it comes down, back up a little bit, and then back down. Okay? A little curved line like that. From behind the top of the nostril here, we just do a little loop. That loop is actually the end of our cheek, just showing behind the nose there a little bit. You can draw in your other cheek now, following the bottom of the circle as your reference point. We'll draw in that same little loop on the other side of the nostril here, and then just coming in from the bottom of the nostril, doing a line following our guideline there. Okay, in terms of drawing the top of the head, we're going to follow that line that we drew, sweeping out, and basically bring it sharply back in, or not even sharply, just bring it back in on like a smooth curve like this. We'll go straight up and follow the shape of our head back, and we'll come straight down the other side into the top of our ear. Probably half a centimeter from the center line here, we're going to come out with a semicircle and just smooth it off at the end. You're going to come around and then taper it off at the end, and that gives us the hair part on one side. To do the part in the hair on the other side, you'll figure out where your ear starts, which is right here. Do a curved line that comes off like that, and then coming from the same point off the center line as we did here, a curved line that joins into that. If you'd like to, just for clarity, you can now erase the line sitting behind the hair there, and that's basically what it will look like. So there's a part that goes behind the horn and then comes back down. being that this is traditional, the hair will be solid black anyways, so it doesn't matter too much, but I do like drawing it in that way. I think it looks really nice. Coming up from the back of the eyebrow here, on this angle, we just draw in an oval, and this gives us a place for our horn. And the horn in this particular one will be really simple. We're just going to come up with a curved line, and same thing on the other side, joining at a peak. I'm actually just going to be doing probably smooth horns for this one. Maybe not, we'll see when we get to the more detailed sort of part of it. And for the other side, you're just going to mimic roughly where that is. So coming from where this hair ends up, making sure the tops are roughly even, and then coming back down. A little bit of intricate detail that happens on the forehead of these guys. We're going to do that right now. Coming in from where the eyebrow joins back into the head, we're just going to follow our shape down, curve it off, and then flick towards the center point. So curve and a flick towards the center point. From the other side, we're going to come down into the eyebrow shape, curve it off, and flick it towards the center point. And you want to keep those guys roughly the same length. Our ear shape in, that's really simple. We're going to follow our guidelines that we did before. Coming down like this, and then you're sort of going to butterfly back out, and the earlobe is actually going to be a little bit of a square sort of shape. To draw the inside of the ear, just draw a circle in to find out where the tragus is going to sit. Follow that line around and up to the top of the ear, and from the bottom of that semicircle that we did, just draw a little loop that joins back into itself. From the top of this line here, bring a line down, just following the outside curve of the ear, and then from the inside of the ear, we're going to do one curved line facing up and one curved line facing down. In terms of drawing the mouth, for the top jaw, we're going to come up here where we ended the cheek and draw a line that comes pretty much straight down on our page. Because the head is angled this way, that line coming straight down is actually coming in on a slight angle. Bring that line across with a curved line until it meets the same point on the other side of the nose. And then really sharply just cut that line back through where the cheek is. And from just behind that, we can draw in a little curved line that just follows the same shape of our cheek. We can loop around and come down. So it sort of comes out, bulges at this point, and then comes back down. And then just tracing that oval that we did for the bottom jaw. Just like that. And you can see angle wise it lines up with the top jaw pretty well, maybe a little bit higher on this end. And then from behind the lip here, we can draw a line that comes out, and it's just going to trace along the bottom edge of our lip. And this is going to give you a little groove that sits just underneath the mouth and looks really good when it's shaded. From the end of that here, just join it up with a little angled line. Follow the curve shape for our bottom jaw, down and back up, and then back down again. So meeting in the middle, and then join those up with a straight line. Follow that line all the way around to here. You can also follow in here with another line. Okay, at this point to draw in the lips, we're going to come out from this line here and draw in that side of the lips. It's basically like a little almond shape. On the other side, We'll do the same thing, but curve up there, follow along and curve up. We're just following that line, that sharp line that we did up into the cheek. And in the center of the lips there, you can just draw in that little dimple that sits in there. And then I also like to do a curved line coming forward like this. This just adds a little bit more detail and a few more folds to the face. Now to draw in our teeth, we're essentially going to go to the very outside of this lip here and draw in our curved tooth like that. It's just pointy curves. And then from there, we're going to do 4 sort of rectangle square shapes. 2, 3, 4, and then another curved peak for our other tooth. And then following this curved line behind here, you can draw in a few more teeth. In this case, we'll go for 4, like that. For the bottom teeth, you're basically going to do the same thing, but we need to put a lip in first. So just doing a little curve at the edge here, and following that line down, and into the teeth. We'll do a curved line that comes up, and back down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 of our rectangles, and another tooth just like this. If they overlap like that, just erase the top one and curve it out a little bit more. This way they don't overlap and create much confusion, especially when doing traditional designs. We tend to avoid those things. Behind this tooth, you just draw some little squares or rectangles going back into the mouth to give us our bottom teeth, our bottom row of teeth as well. To draw in our tongue, we'll do a little loop or a little semicircle that comes up and back down. Drawing the center line for it, and a little curved line to indicate where that tongue trails off to, and another little line to indicate the this center line on the inside of the mouth as well, because that will be visible. Okay, so we've got a pretty awesome looking shape for our traditional Hannya mask here. We're going to put in the pupils and a few other little details before we start the line work for this one. So in terms of the pupils, you can put them wherever you like, depending on where you want this guy to look. In this case, I want him looking up into this sort of corner. So I just have both pupils facing off in that direction. Okay, one last detail I wanted to get into before lining this one. I said our horns would be smooth, but that might be a little bit boring for you. So I'm just going to do some curved lines that come down the horns and just following the contour of the horns so that the lines wrap around. Okay, so we have a really solid looking Hannya mask outline here. I'm going to go ahead and outline this one. I'm not going to go through the whole process. You guys already know how I line things. So in this video, I'll be using a 0.8 pigment liner to do most of the line work. I'll be using a 0.5 pigment liner to be doing those individual hair strands and the ribs in the horns. And then I'll also be using a 1.2 pigment liner. If you don't have one of these, you can probably get away with using a Sharpie, although I would recommend just boosting up the lines using your 0.8 by going over them a few times to get your thicker line weight. But in this case, I'll be using a 1.2 pigment liner for parts like the eyebrows, the eyes, maybe the cheekbones, you know, the parts that I really want to push forward and have stand out, and probably the main outline of the head. That way the whole thing sort of stands off the page a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and outline this, and I'll see you in the next part. So as you guys can see, I've done the outline, I've boosted up all my lines, and I've erased my pencil guidelines. And we're now going to go ahead and get into the shading and coloring of this guy. We're sticking to a really basic color palette today. Red and black. So this will be a primarily black and grey design with a little bit of red in there just for detail, but I'm sticking to some simple colors to give it that really bold look that we're after. We're going to start off by just blackening out the hair. You can actually do this in a few different ways. you can leave a little highlight spot right in the middle here and just fade from your black to white like we usually do. This leaves a little gap in the hair where there's some reflection. Okay, the next little coloring thing we're going to do is the teeth. So we're going to take our 0.8 not mechanical pencil, sorry, our pigment liner, and we're going to basically black out the inside line of the teeth, leaving a little white line around the outside of the teeth. Now this looks good if you intend on coloring your full design. You can color the teeth in a nice vibrant yellow, just leaving these little black squares as they are and coloring the outside lip yellow, or in this case we'll be leaving them the color of the paper, which is white, and just having these little solid black coloring things. It's far from realistic, but I have seen a lot of traditional style designs that use this way of coloring in the teeth, and I love the way that it looks. It's really bold, it's pretty visually striking, and it's really simple to do as well. If you're new to this and you're not sure how to color the teeth, you don't always want to leave them completely white because the contrast can be a little bit too high with the rest of your image. So you can always go in and just black them out the way that we're doing here. You just have to make sure you leave that little edge of highlight on them, otherwise they might look a little bit silly. Okay, with all of the hair and teeth blacked out, we're going to start shading this guy. You're going to need a makeshift palette, so basically a spare piece of paper, preferably watercolor paper so that it can hold a bit more ink, your 700 black Ecoline brush marker, and your watercolor brush pen. And from here we can start basically shading our design. So starting in nice and close with the eyes here, we're basically going to lay down a little bit of black, and then just taking our water pen and blending that out. From here we're going to take our black and go into this crease here in the head, following the shape of the crease with a little bit of our black, and then blending that out with our water brush to a nice grey. Now you actually want to do the exact same thing on the other side. Just turn my page around for this to make things a little bit easier to work with. We'll throw in a touch of our black, and then just take our water brush and smooth it out. From here we want to shade this crease behind the eye here, so I'm going to turn the page just to make things a little bit easier. Get in just behind the eye and do a little bit of black. Take your water brush and just blend that forward. We'll do a little bit of black on the inside of the ear. It'll be quite dark in here actually. Just following the shape of that curve and the area below it as well. And this is just putting in all of our heavy blacks before we go in with our lighter sort of tones. And that bottom sort of loop we can just color in solid black. Coming in from below the cheek here, you can put in a nice heavy solid area of black. And then with your water brush, we can gently just blend that out to a white. Underneath the cheek. And same thing coming up from behind the bottom jaw here. We can actually get a nice little shadow under here as well. This little loop that comes down and around, we're going to do a little bit of black off this front edge. You don't want to do too much. And just blend it back to white. And then coming from the back of the mouth here is where the primary sort of areas of black will be, and anywhere that it loops up will be a little bit lighter. So to show you that, we'll come into this dip and we'll do a little patch of black and blend that forward to towards the center of the lip. Do a little bit more black coming off the back of that. And then blend it back. And coming from the back of the mouth forwards, we're going to do the same thing. Blending it forwards towards the front of the mouth. And add a little bit more black to this area. And you're blending it out into the cheek. Coming in just below the nose here, there's a little crease that we just want to do a little bit of black in. And again, just blend that out. Gonna be a pretty dark, shadowy area under the nose here, so don't be afraid to go a little bit darker than you might normally. From the other side of the nose, we'll do the same thing. And just blend it down. And then that little crease that we have, or the little dimple that we have under the nose, just above the lip, put a little bit of black in there, and just blend that up also. There's these little creases behind the cheeks here that we're going to add a little bit of black into, not too much, and just blend up into the cheek. And we're going to do a little bit of black on the inside of the mouth as well. So just coming to the back of the tongue here, the inside part of the tongue. A little bit of solid black. And just fading that out to a grey. I'm going to do solid black. And again, just blend that out nicely. Okay, from there, we've got all of our base shading done, all of our black shading. To come in now, we're going to take our makeshift palette, draw a little bit of black ink onto it. I've been through this before. And now you're basically going to dip your water brush into the ink to get a grey. That way you're not putting any solid black down when you do these grey parts. Okay, so we'll start with the cheek areas. We're going to get a little bit of grey on our brush. This, and just coming in the bottom of the cheeks here and fading up. Just make sure you leave a really solid white highlight along the edge there, just like that. We're going to take a little bit of that grey and come in from behind the nose. And anytime you see a little bump like this or a little crease in the flesh, you can take your grey, come out of where that crease is, following the same shape. Just make sure you leave a little highlight along the top edge of that crease, and this will give you the look of the folds. In terms of doing the nostril, leave a little white highlight on the bottom, follow a circle for your first little bulge, and then another circle at the top there. So we're coming in where the nose dips, but leaving those areas as bigger sort of highlight areas. And we'll do pretty much the same thing on the other side. And just coming around like that. Shading the bottom jaw. We're going to do a little sliver of grey on this side. Making sure we leave our white highlight. And we can just blend that grey up a little bit. And do the exact same thing, following on from the other side. From here you can also take a little bit of grey and just come down from that bottom lip, like this. And gently blend that out. To do the top part of the head, we'll basically take our grey, put in a nice shadow on this side of the eye here, leaving a highlight on the leftmost side there, just leaving a solid line of white. And you can blend that out if you'd like. Sometimes I'll leave it solid, more like a cell shading look, and sometimes I will smooth it out a little bit more. And you can come down the other side there and do the same. shading the creases around the nose here. This part of the nose comes in, so we'll shade the underside of that grey. And the nose sort of comes back out, so we'll leave white along the front edge there. It wraps around, we have this curve here, and up into our little curved sort of shapes, these little loops that we did. Just blending up towards them. The loop on this side can be a little bit darker. It is a little bit more heavily shadowed. In doing the eyebrows, we'll do them the same way that we did the cheek. Bringing some grey across the bottom. Just making sure that we leave that nice highlight that we put in there. Like this. And then gently blending. There's a few different ways that you can shade the top part of the head here. In this case, I'm going to take a nice solid black. And I've just realized that the hair is a little bit off center, but that's okay. We all make mistakes. Just make sure you straighten that one up on yours. But yeah, blending down from the top of the forehead with a grey. There's different ways of doing this, but I just wanted to keep it simple for this one. For the horns, it's going to be simple. Ecoline black. And we're just going to use that shading down from the top of the horns. There's a few different ways to shade these, and I have covered them in a previous tips and tricks video. But in this case, we're going to do just solid black from the top and gently blending that down towards the bottom of the horns for a nice simple but bold look. Last but not least, we are going to be colouring in our tongue using Scarlet Red from Ecoline. And we're basically going to colour it with no blending, no smoothing out. We're just going to go in with solid red and just leave those little white skin areas, the little skin gaps around the edges of all the lines, including the centre vein of the tongue. So it looks like this. Just leaving that white lip, the same what we did on the teeth basically, but solid red. And we're going to do that for the whole tongue. Now we just add a signature to the piece, and that will complete our traditional Hanyu mask tutorial. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Now, I've really been enjoying seeing your guys' work, so I'd like to make a special shout out to Christopher Bartlett and Nisa Cratchley. Chris contacted me over on Facebook with this peony design that he drew. He also worked on the tips and tricks video where we covered horns. And Nisa Cratchley started doing the dragon head video. She did a really good job capturing the right shape for the dragon's head, following along with my tutorial. If you want to see your artwork featured on my channel, head over to my Facebook at Daggett Designs. Over there you can see my online portfolio and any other upcoming work that I have. And make sure you send me a direct message on Facebook with your artwork, and I'll let you know what I think of it, and it may even feature in one of my YouTube videos. If you want to support what I do, guys, head over to daggettdesigns.com.au. I've got a sticker pack, a brush pack, a t-shirt, a few prints. There's something for everyone over there, so if you want to support what I do and you feel like picking something up, do head over there and help me out. But most of all, guys, if there's something you can do to help, leave a comment in the comment section down below, letting me know what you'd like to see next time. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you are new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to stay updated every time a new video comes out. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.